That's really what I would like you to walk away with today, is a very clear understanding of how we are framing it from the Department of Small Business perspective. So once we have a handle on that door, it is really much easier to plan interventions around different industries and also to look at the barriers that entrepreneurs are experiencing. It is really about us moving towards a greener economy. And in doing so, we'd like to do it in a just transition way so that we are not leaving anybody behind, that we are mindful of everybody who wants to be involved in this transitioning process. And the objective mainly is for us to decarbonize our economy because of climate change pressures that we are having. And I'll go into a little bit more detail around that. All right, so first, just a brief introduction about the green economy, then looking at climate change and the role of SMEs in climate adaptation and mitigation. Then we're going to talk a little bit about net zero and the carbon emission targets for 2050 that our country is set, and also globally how this is connected to the rest of the world. Then very important to talk about things that people don't often want to talk about is about green business barriers. It's not easy. Today is not all about how exciting it is. We need to acknowledge that there's still barriers because it's still fairly new green industries that we're developing. So the early days, I've seen it from my 15 years in this area of work, that we are currently really picking up speed. So we're no longer going 40 or 60 kilometers per hour. I think we're more going towards 120 kilometers per hour. So things are moving very quickly, and we need to acknowledge barriers to see how we can unlock that and really fasten this process towards decarbonization. Then I'm going to just briefly talk about the solution. So we really hope that from a national department, the Department of Small Business Development, is also looking at developing a green economy roadmap so that we can actually have a very clear plan and how we are going to put plans in place and measures and interventions for financial and non-financial support for green entrepreneurs. So yes, it's a busy space. I think a lot of you are sometimes also a little confused because there's a lot happening and it is quite complex. It's very natural to feel a little confused, because it's like a big chocolate cake. That's what I always say to people in my non-economist language. Imagine the economy as a big chocolate cake. It's got 8 slices, and these slices presents 8 industries. And I'll take you through these industries. And then we have all the icing layers within each slice of the chocolate cake, where we want youth engagement, women's own businesses to engage. We have technology development. We've got access to finance challenges. So it's a very, very complex space. But I think it's quite important that we understand there's also a range of barriers for fragmentation, lack of coordination, because if we're looking at the water sector, or we're looking at the transport sector or construction sector or agriculture, there's different role players and stakeholders engage in these sectors. And we are trying to put an orchestra together to harmonize the efforts, conductor, to try and see how we can smooth out some of the speed bumps and fill up some of the potholes along the way. All right, so obviously, I think some of the barriers that really just stands out that we want to acknowledge, and we're looking forward to the engagement of the entrepreneurs today as well, is a lack of access to information. So that's why we are here today. We'd like to share some information. And then also poor understanding of the pathways towards these opportunities. So we're going to clarify that for you. And the very, very big pain point, obviously, always is financing gaps. All right, this picture, I'm just going to close my camera for a minute, so that you can get the full view. This is a diagram that can kind of show you a little bit of a demystifying this busy space. So what we've got in the middle, the SMEs in the green economy. Then we have this really big pressure to reduce our carbon emissions. We've got job creation and skills development. We want to improve our resilience in the country, especially from an adaptation perspective. How do we become more resilient against the fires, the droughts, the floods, and all the things that climate change is throwing at us? And recently also an earthquake in Boksburg and Pretoria area. So how can we become more resilient against these changes of the energy crisis, water crises? And how do we create, at the end of the day, enabling ecosystems? Now, all of these factors have different dependencies, and I'm not going to go into too much detail around that, but I just wanted to give you an understanding of how complex it is. Then we also have 9 green key economic programs in the country, and there's different role players across departments involved in this. Then we also have think tanks. Today we have a lot of incubators in Dalu. We've got Green Cape with the market intelligence report. We have so many hatchery and also a couple of others that's going to share with you what they are doing. But it's a busy space, lots is happening. And what we are trying to do with the EDSE program is to also collate all of the information so that they are more at a central space and that the stakeholders can engage with us so that we avoid duplications and we make sure that our efforts in the green economy is really targeted to where it's needed. So the green sectors, the 8 that I mentioned to you, I'm just briefly going to go over them. We've got agriculture, we've got buildings and the built environment, so the construction industry. We've got energy efficiency and clean energy, resource conservation and management, which is your biodiversity sector, sustainable consumption and production, and then transport and infrastructure, waste management and water. And they have various subsectors. But this is for me a very important acknowledgement to all the green entrepreneurs that's already in this meeting today and those that might still be joining the green economy and green industries. Your role is incredibly important. And I've got a table here to pinpoint why you are very important. So I'm just going to go a little bit over the key points. For a local green entrepreneur plays a very important role in the green economy. So we've got SMEs on the left side, understanding their role in the green economy, but now we've got a green entrepreneur. And they contribute to greater inclusion. They reduce inequality. Small businesses contribute to economic empowerment. They foster community and rural development, and they drive the development of social and green businesses, a very important role. Now, if we take this in the context of climate change and the crisis, we need to prepare for more fire seasons, ensure disaster and public health plans account for more severe weather, storms, wind conditions, protect farms and food supply from climate impacts, protect our air quality, what we're breathing, our shelter, smart townships, where we live and how we are resilient in terms of our infrastructure around climate change. Then we've got transport infrastructure. I think you can recall with the floods in KZN, what happened to the roads when all that floods came down? It was devastating to logistics and the transport sector because goods couldn't flow that easily anymore. Then the rise of challenging sea levels, the floods, we see that more and more. We've got water security, the KZN example when there was the toxicity from the fertilizer plant that exploded. Then it polluted all the water bodies, and then the floods came and broke the contamination dams. An absolute provincial disaster. Localization is key, if we want to become more decentralized and give service provision. We all are feeling this very painful crisis of load shedding. So to have more energy security, rooftop PV, if we have our own water tanks, every house should have a water tank to be able to harvest your own water. And next generation sanitation, very important, very interesting new development, and the toilets that we use, that's more circular economy, food gardens, organic material waste management at a household level. These are one of the key things that at a household level and a community level will become more and more important. All right, now let's look at climate change and SMEs. Yes, we all had the COVID pandemic. If you can see the first wave there, we had a recession, economic recession. We've got climate change we're dealing with. We've got the biodiversity collapse. And South Africa, on top of this, we've got load shedding and we've got potholes and infrastructure problems. So it's not so easy, but it is also very exciting times for SMEs who have solutions for all these problems. So we need to talk about the impact of climate change, the drive to net zero. I'll go a bit more into that, but also how it's going to impact supply chains and the SMEs that need capacity building to adapt to remain competitive within greening their businesses. So then we're also going to be talking a little bit about climate finance. We're going to need to talk about the net zero transition, and we need to make sure that we don't leave any entrepreneur behind. So again, in a summary, climate change is the greatest challenge for our times, creating conflict and threatening our food security, water security, ecosystems, health, infrastructure, national economies, and the livelihoods and well-being of people in our local communities. And this results in an increasing demand and stresses on the government structures and institutions to address all these impacts. We cannot expect our government to address all the load shedding problems. We need to work together as entrepreneurs and local communities to solve and become more resilient. All right, so if we're looking at climate mitigation and adaptation solutions, I'm going to quickly go over this. Billy, I'm mindful of the time. We are looking at an adaptation mitigation continent. So we're looking at carbon neutral transport, renewable energy on the mitigation side. We've got waste management, water and energy conservation in the middle. And then from the adaptation perspective is protection against floods and droughts, adaptation of building and infrastructure design. So this is just for those in the room. We want to understand when we talk about climate mitigation and adaptation, what is examples of this? This is another one we can talk about. It goes across the built environment, energy industry, livelihoods, land use, forest and ecosystems. All right. Feel free to go Google a bit more if you want information, but I think it's quite important. With climate mitigation and adaptation, it presents opportunities. Climate finance is coming more increasingly to South Africa, and climate finance providers are also looking for entrepreneurs who can address the climate vulnerabilities and look at adaptation investments. And you can see it's across the agri sector, looking at construction and real estate, food processing, forestry, hydropower, insurance, mining technology, thermal power and transport. So let's quickly just talk about net zero. It's very important. I always say to people, there's 3 things in life you cannot escape. Now, as entrepreneurs, you understand how important it is to do your tax returns. SARS knows where you live. They know your ID. You cannot escape your tax compliance. Then death. None of us can escape death. All right. And the third one is this new 2050 net zero line in the sand. We cannot cross this line. Why? Because our planet is increasingly heating up. The oceans are becoming warmer. It's creating natural disasters. We need to ideally maintain a 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature to make sure that our planet is a habitable planet. Now, South Africa is one of the 14th largest emitters of greenhouse.
30 seconds.
Yes, thank you. All right, thank you so much. So this is just to give you an indication of everything that's happening in the space. And we are busy with a green economy roadmap to unpack all of this for the Department of Small Business so that they can understand what is their role. And we've recently done a green business barrier to understand what barriers needs to be addressed. So for the couple of past 4 months, we've been doing an investigation into which opportunities presents itself in green industries. So the presentation, I'm just briefly going to take you through what the study aimed to achieve. And then I'd like to spend just a bit more detail really on the actual findings. All right. So we've done this for the EDSE, and we were appointed by the Department of Small Business Development via the EU delegation to do the study. And we're looking at 8 sectors at a day. And the objective really was to identify green technologies, access to market opportunities, looking at value chains, project locations, investment flows, mechanisms, and access to finance, who's the stakeholders, and what is the SME barriers to entry for these opportunities. And then the outcome really would be to take stock, and we will present a bit more visibility in terms of fact sheets that we'd like to distribute to everybody that attended today at the end of June, that you can have visibility on what opportunities are presented within your sector. I also want to acknowledge, obviously, the work of Green Cape, who's doing detailed market analysis. I'm sure Green Cape can also share the link to their market intelligence studies, because these will take you into much more detail. This is just going to give you a very broad overview. All right. So I think it's important to understand when we talk about a green entrepreneur, you can identify yourself in the room today. Where do you fit? So we've got different green enterprises types, and then they are also in different sectors. So if we look at a type. You can either be providing a consulting service, advisory, financial, or capacity building service. Number B, be a manufacturer of green goods, products or technologies or equipment. C, a supplier of the green goods or products and equipment. D, an installer of the manufactured goods. E would be providing maintenance and repairs. And then F is an end user of the green goods. So you're procuring from another entrepreneur who's producing, just to make sure. And then these are also then within the 8 sectors. This was just our research process. So we can see the little green arrow there. We are now going towards completion of this study. So you are getting the first views today. And we really would like to make sure that the opportunities are well understood so that everybody can understand what is the benefit of a green industry. How can we move towards decarbonization across sectors so that we are actually enhancing green industries? So a green industry offers a practical way to long-term economic growth and sustainable development. There are multiple benefits, and these would be to reduce raw material, increase security of supply, reduce pollution risk and cost, lower the cost of capital, increase your employee appeal and engagement, and increased awareness of emerging smart technologies and enhance innovation capacity and skills. And some people might say, well, where does circular economy fit within it? So I think circular economy, just to not further confuse you, it's just more circular business models, where we are not extracting our fossil fuels and our non-renewables materials, but we are moving towards circular economy to make sure that the products that we use and the materials are less impacting on the decarbonization journey that we're on. We want to be more circular and extend the lifespan of these products. So the findings, all right, I'm just going to take you in a very high level through this. So when we talk about agriculture, we're talking about sustainable agriculture, food production, fishery and forestry. So we're looking at regenerative agriculture. Some people talk about organic or permaculture. We're talking about climate smart technologies. We need our solar panels. We need the water technologies to farm smarter. Sustainable fisheries, agroforestry, and also wine. Sustainable wine is important, and lots of movement within the organic wine production. So there you can have it. There's cannabis that stands out, lots more products, infusion within cosmetics, soaps, even food infusion. The area where I live in the deep south, we get pizza, we get coffee, we get chocolate, everything, even our water is cannabis infused from a nutrition perspective. So there's lots of new things happening within, I see some hands up here, lots happening within your climate smart agriculture. All right, and then it's important that you're not alone. When you're in climate smart agriculture, your business links to other sectors. You connect to renewable energy, you connect to the waste sector, to the water sector. It's really, really important that we're not looking at these in isolation. Biodiversity is the second one. So natural resources, biospecting and biotrade on indigenous species, looking at native plant nurseries, wildlife rehabilitation, conservation and restoration, biotechnology and ecotourism. That's all connected to these. Then we're looking at construction. Green building is more eco-friendly building materials, green roofing, sustainable landscaping, energy. We're looking at renewable and energy efficiency. Here is a lot. You can see how busy the space is. Solar installation, sales, distribution, your panel cleaning, repair and maintenance, energy trading, power grid design, solar water pumping system, wind energy installation, biofuel production, solar refrigeration systems, solar water heating systems. You can be energy auditor in the consulting industry, research and product development, remote cloud-based energy management, small specialist manufacturers that manufacture and supply components within the value chain, and then small importers, and then solar financing is also quite interesting. Transport, e-mobility. Yes. All right.
2 minutes.
I'm going to wrap up here. Thank you so much. E-mobility. We all hear about electrical vehicle. You can be in the charging station installation management, electrical bikes and scooter rental, electrical vehicle conversion, electrical vehicle maintenance repair, and then recycling, I think is a little bit more well-known to all of us, but it's still important. Water harvesting treatment and water flow, manufacturing, important packaging, eco-friendly products. This is an area where I think we are really moving towards more circular economy, second-hand stores, waterless car wash products, all the kind of sustainable fashion, handmade, natural, organic products. So all your kind of sustainable consumption and production related.
So I'd just like to give a quick overview of what I'll be doing today, which is a quick introduction into GreenCape and the work we do, outlining the opportunities in the electric vehicle market space, highlighting additional opportunities in this space, identifying barriers, and also the key success stories in this market. So GreenCape is a not-for-profit sector desk development agency which was established 13 years ago. This currently sits at the interface of academia, business, governments to identify and remove barriers to economically viable green economy solutions. GreenCape was born out of the Western Cape government and later established a national footprint which now aims to work in developing countries to catalyze the replication and adoption of green economy solutions. We have a sector focus in circular economy, renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, water, and green finance. So every year we publish market intelligence reports which highlights investment opportunities in various sectors. The 2023 market intelligence reports were published in partnership with the UK Partnering for Accelerated Climate Transitions, which is the UK Pact, the Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom, and the Western Cape Government Department of Agriculture. If you'd like to download any of the market intelligence reports to get more information, I've included a QR code on the screen which you could scan and get a direct link. These market intelligence reports highlight opportunities in the large-scale renewable energy services, sustainable transport, sustainable agriculture, and water sectors. The focus of today's discussion will be on electric vehicles. So I'll just do an overview of the investment opportunities in the electric vehicle ecosystem. Electric vehicles is an emerging market which represents a relatively small share of the South African automotive industry, but this shows great promise to investors and businesses currently active and interested in the sector. There are 4 key market opportunities which include the local manufacturing and electrification of the public transport system, micromobility for last mile delivery, local manufacturing for electric private passenger vehicles, and local lithium-ion cell manufacturing. Highlighting the key drivers in each of these market opportunities, for local manufacturing and electrification of public transport, this is driven by rising fuel costs, the South African Green Transport Strategy, which has a 5% decarbonization target by 2050, government procurement policies which enable electric vehicle procurements, and the 80% bus body local component requirement for public procurements. In the electric micromobility and last mile delivery market opportunity, this is driven by the relative affordability of micro vehicles, low input duties on these vehicles, ease of local assembly of complete knockdown kits, and local component supply chain, which currently exists. In the local manufacturing of electric private passenger vehicles, this is driven by the European Union's ban on internal combustion vehicles, which contributes a significant portion to the South African vehicle export sector. This is also driven by the Auto Green Paper for the advancements of new energy vehicles in South Africa and the high custom duty and ad valorem taxes that are applied to imported electric vehicles in South Africa. And the final key market opportunity for electric vehicles, this is driven by the need for lithium-ion batteries in many sectors such as energy, electric vehicles, consumer electronics, and other sectors both domestically and internationally. It's also driven by the availability and relative ease of resources like lithium, cobalt, nickel, manganese in South Africa and sub-Saharan Africa. This slide just highlights the relative market opportunities mapped out against the ease of market entry against the market growth potential, with micromobility for last mile delivery having the highest ease of market entry and the highest market growth potential. This just shows the market sizing opportunity for electric vehicles in South Africa, with the light delivery vehicle market being the second largest electrification opportunity by volume, with 2.7 vehicles, after the private passenger vehicle with 7.8 million vehicles. So some of the barriers towards electric mobility's transition in South Africa include the high capex cost, with most electric vehicles in South Africa being greater than R1 million, industrial capacity with limited local electric vehicle manufacturing capacity, skills, as different types of manufacturing skill set is required, energy security, where renewable energy supply is required for charging. This just shows the growth of electric private passenger vehicle sales in South Africa from 2016 to 2022. And this is the electric vehicles are not affordable, and this indicates that barrier, with the highest electric vehicle being 3.3 million and the lowest being 600,000. So highlighting some of the key success stories of the electric vehicle pilots in South Africa, hoping to spur some ideas, get some investment opportunities, or maybe even partnerships with these companies for the investors and entrepreneurs on the line. One of the opportunities and success stories was Electric Life Riders, which is an electric kick scooter, which has mobility as a service business model, making micro-mobility accessible to those who can't afford a vehicle. There's an opportunity for ride-sharing and personnel, but the barrier is a lack of micro-mobility lanes and charging stations. Another successful electric vehicle pilot is Green Riders, which has an electric bicycle as a service business model, is involved in the last mile delivery, has partnered with Uber Eats, Bolt Foods, Pick n Pay ASAP, has currently 500 active e-bikes. All e-bikes and battery packs are assembled in Cape Town. Another success story is Go Electric, which is an electric moped in the last mile delivery, has a pilot with Spar online deliveries and has an opportunity in the last mile delivery. There's also Silence, which is an electric motorcycle in the last mile delivery, pilots with Checker 6060, and the opportunities for last mile delivery and personal mobility. Again, in that micro-mobility market, there's Mellow Vans, which is an electric three-wheeler manufactured in Cape Town, so it has 70% local components. It's engaged in the last mile delivery, has partnered with DHL, Takealots, and Skynet, is exporting to Europe in 2022, and the opportunity is e-hailing and last mile delivery. On the public transport market opportunity, we have Flex EV, which is an electric minibus taxi pilot in 2023. So they're importing right-hand drive electric minibus taxis for testing in South Africa. One of the barriers to this is high import taxes and duties, as electric vehicles are priced as luxury vehicles, so they have high import duties. An opportunity is having solar roof and charging stations at minibus taxi ranks with the local manufacturing opportunity. The City of Cape Town also has the Golden Arrow bus services, which has solar rooftop installations at depots in Cape Town, with the preparation for future charging facilities at the Golden Arrow bus station depot. There's pilot testing of 2 BYD batteries and electric buses in the program, with the opportunity of procurement of 60 electric buses a year from 2024 onwards. In the mining sector, there's also Anglo-American hydrogen fuel cell mining truck. The key driver of this opportunity was electric underground mining vehicles, which lowers the cost of cooling, ventilation, and fuel. A barrier to this is that large electric mining trucks take too long to charge, but there is an opportunity for hydrogen fuel cell mining that can be refueling faster than battery electric. There's also the Mini Cooper SE, which is the cheapest electric passenger vehicle in the South African market. Mini Cooper is developing public charging ecosystem powered by solar energy, and there's an opportunity for combining solar carports with EV charging stations. Additionally, in the EV charging station infrastructure, this also presents an opportunity, as private sector investment in public DC and AC charging stations is rapidly growing in the South African market, with currently there being 424 privately owned EV charging stations in South Africa. EV OEMs such as Grad Cars, Rubicon, and Zimicharge are the largest investors. This graph just displays those owners and the number of charging stations in South Africa, with BMW having 107, private and smaller networks having 90 charging stations, and grid cars having 82. Additionally, along the electric vehicle manufacturing train, there are additional opportunities. With electric vehicles, there are opportunities in basic materials, parts and components, manufacturing and tooling, retail, and independent aftermarket. There are also opportunities with the charging infrastructure, parts and components, manufacturing and assembly, retail and billing, and operations and maintenance as well. And with the lithium-ion batteries, there's raw materials, processing, battery pack inputs, and retail.
My name is Twaitangle Watwalo, and I'm the managing director of the Hatchery. The Hatchery is the first global clean tech incubator. We've got we're founded in Norway, and I've got the privilege of heading up South Africa and Africa, based out of Cape Town. First and foremost, we've got Amazon Web Services. So at Amazon, they've created a 2-week immersive experience that's dedicated to boosting underrepresented founders. So they give you a funding, you receive a grant from the Schultz Family Foundation to cover housing, travel and those sort of expenses. So if you are keen on that, I've got the link there, and the application deadline is in just 2 days. So you need to hurry up and, read up and find out more about that if you are keen. And then we've got Sasol Ventures. Sasol Ventures has built a funding vehicle for businesses that are building, clean tech and green tech solutions that can fit into their pipeline and into their current operations. So I've got details there as well for them. And then the third one is Rand Merchant Bank. Rand Merchant Bank teamed up with another bank based in Germany to set up the first fund. And the first fund is finance. It's long-term finance for SMMEs that are building up and wanting to scale energy projects that should reduce carbon intensity. The fourth one is the Green Support Program. So the Green Support Program is an opportunity to provide relief to SMMEs that are affected by power interruptions. We all know we're plagued by not COVID, by what do you call it? Power going on and off during the week and during the day. So what they do is that they will supplement a portion of your energy needs and renewable and efficient energy with energy technologies. Load shedding, that's what I was looking for. So if you need, support because your business you're failing to keep production and manufacturing happening, you can apply for that fund, for that program. The Climate Launchpad 2023, this is now one of the largest green business competitions. And it allows for, SMMEs to apply for this competition, pitch, and, see if they can win the big prize by having the most innovative solution in that room. Could I please get my final slide? And the sixth one is Intex. So Intex focuses on clothing, textiles, footwear, leather. So this is all about the circular economy, where the product is created, but also the end of life is considered in the development of that product. So if you're in the textile space, reach out to them and they can definitely assist you with, business strategy and business support in your textile business. And then number 7 is WomHub. So WomHub is for females, specifically for women in STEM. So they have a program called the Circular Economy Incubator. So whichever field you're in and you're female, you can definitely apply to the WomHub program. And second before last is a Business Partners Energy, the Energy Fund. So the Energy Fund from Business Partners starts from 250,000 to 2 million for businesses that have a viable business plan, who want to buy, solar systems, battery systems, generators, inverters, in order to continue manufacturing in your business to ensure that you have less downtime. And then final one is the Grow E-Youth Scheme. This one is done by the IDC. So they fund startup businesses with the goal of encouraging youth entrepreneurship and building and creating jobs. There should be one more slide with another, with one final, the 10th one, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, if you can't find it, the 10th one is it's by CIFA. So this is the fund of funds that they call it. So they work with third-party intermediaries who then disperse these funds to businesses on their behalf. And it also allows you to grow your startup or your technology-based business. And I will share that again as well with the contact details for the specific funding at CIFA.
Financiers are saying that there isn't a pipeline of projects, while projects are saying that they can't access financing. So the Green Finance Desk works to facilitate these relationships. We work across all sector desks in Green Cape with the objectives of developing a network of financial institutions with interest in the green economy, working on understanding the requirements of businesses and projects within the green economy, looking at removing the barriers to finance and implementing innovative financing solutions, and also providing ad hoc support programs to facilitate pipeline creation in the green economy. So these green finance support programs include the Green Pitch Challenge, the Climate Finance Accelerator, and the Green Outcomes Fund. Additionally, the Green Finance Desk published a Green Finance database to outline the sources of funding in the green economy. So just to highlight on the Green Pitch Challenge. The Green Pitch Challenge is a partnership with the Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom, which invites innovators and entrepreneurs with economically viable green economy solutions to pitch their ideas. The 2023 Green Pitch Challenge call for entries closed last week on the 8th of June with a whopping 207 applicants. The prizes include a 100,000 Rand cash prize and other in-kind business support sponsored by RMB Ventures, Google Startups for Sustainable Development, Launch Lab, and Cerebi. This challenge focuses on early stage startups which have a proof of concept or a pilot project running, looking for first round seed funding, as well as pre-growth projects which are registered and trading with sales looking for Series A funding. The Green Pitch Challenge seeks to provide access to an ecosystem of green economy supports and allow for the networking with investors, businesses, and government decision makers. The selected projects get to pitch their ideas to an esteemed panel of judges in hopes of winning each of the prizes. This slide just highlights the top 10 innovations of 2022. In the pre-venture stage, we had Flex EV, which is in electric mobility, Marshnet Mycelium, which is a plastics alternative, Me2U, which is a circular economy project, Waste Water Treatment Technology, which is a water project, and Manhole Protector Grid, MPG, which is a sewer and stormwater networks resilience. In the pre-growth cohorts, we had Nat UV Care, which is a bioeconomy and circular economy project, Plentify, which is an energy project, Aquaponics Franchise, which is an energy and agriculture project, Preventing Leaks, Smart Polymer Manhole Covers, which is a water and service delivery project. Also Mobile Crushers, which is a circular project. So with the 2023 Green Pitch Challenge, which closed earlier, we had 207 applicants, just to repeat again. And some key event dates around this project were that the finalists will be announced on the 30th of June 2023. We'll have a pitch prep workshop with RMB on the 20th of July here in Cape Town at FNB Portside, with the pitching events a week later on the 27th of July 2023. We're still deciding on the venue. So that's the Green Pitch Challenge. Additionally, at more established businesses, we have a Climate Finance Accelerator. So the Climate Finance Accelerator is part of the UK government's investment into the South African transition to a low carbon economy. We undertake this project with our local partners, which include the National Business Initiative and Green Cape, and it's currently overseen by PwC UK. So what we seek in this program is to ensure that projects are in the best position to attract investment from financiers by providing them capacity building on topics such as blended finance, financial modeling, pitching, gender, equity, and social inclusion. The 2022 call for entries had 166 applicants over the green economy sectors in renewable energy, agriculture, water, circular economy, and electric vehicles. After technical reviews, we shortened to a final cohort of 15 projects who received capacity building, mentoring, networking opportunities with investors and financial institutions at an in-person event. So this is just some of the aims of the CFA program on this slide: to improve their bankability, improve their networks, increase their visibility, and provide access to investors, and help them achieve their low carbon objectives. So some of the outputs from the capacity building sessions include allowing these projects or enabling them to produce pitch decks, project digests, one-slide summaries, a GESI action plan, and any other supporting documents. So these are just some of the achievements to date in South Africa that we've achieved with the CFA program. And these are some of the CFA companies. These include Liquid Gold, WeStore, Green Riders, NutriHumus, Mustafa Energy, Alien Fuel Group, Samanjalo, CH4, BSF Breeding, Sherpa Utility, Home Energy, Everelectric, and the CSIR. Just to highlight some additional opportunities at Green Cape, I'm just outlining the Green Outcomes Fund. The Green Outcomes Fund was developed in South Africa to incentivize investment into local SMMEs that can generate green outcomes whilst creating jobs in the energy, water, waste, infrastructure, and land management sectors. This is through a partnership with National Treasury's Job Fund, Greencome, and Green Cape, which seeks to provide outcomes-based match funding to catalytic finance partners that provides investment support to local SMMEs contributing towards job creation in South Africa's green economy. Listed below are some of the partners, which include the Jobs Fund, RMB, WWF, Bertha Center, and Green Cape. So the purpose of the Green Outcomes Fund is to get clearly defined green outcomes in the water, waste, energy, and agricultural sectors, higher quality and consistent reporting of green impacts, increase job creation, incentivize investment into green SMMEs by local fund managers, and enabling catalytic finance partners to provide support services in ways that were not previously possible by developing and adopting the SMME investment criteria. Some of the key catalytic finance partners in the Green Outcomes Fund include Edge Growth, Mergent Investment Managers, IDF Capital, and Conservation International. And this slide just highlights some of the SMMEs that have partnered up with the CFPs, which include Waste Want, Alice Group, Ikagi, and Drive Compost in the waste and circular economy sectors, Sensor Network, LED Lighting, Gap Giza, iGen, and Lula Loop, which are in the energy and energy efficiency sectors, Meat Naturally, which is a sustainable agriculture projects, Nambu and BSF Breeding, which produce black soldier flies, and Kusini Water, which is a portable water treatment solution. Additional support to entrepreneurs in the green economy, the Green Finance Desk published the Green Finance Database. This provides a breakdown of available climate finance sources that can be used in the green economy, companies and projects in South Africa. It highlights relevant sources of finance, mostly governments, DFIs, commercial banks, and other sources. It also sorts by sectors, namely renewable energy, water, conservation, supply and demand, circular economy, amongst others. And it highlights investment instruments such as grants, concessional debts, equity, and other sources. There is a QR code here as well for you to access the Green Finance Database.
And I'm just going to probably give a high-level, introduction or an overview of the work that we do. And I'm excited to also share a couple of examples of the type of entrepreneurship that we support. I'm very happy that some of them actually have been highlighted by our previous speakers, and I'll possibly highlight and allude to that as we go. So yeah, my name is Rest Kanju, and I work for Indalo Inclusive South Africa. As I roll my screen, if it allows me to do so. Here we go. Yeah, so we are a not-for-profit company. We're based here in Pretoria, but recently opened up offices in the Eastern Cape, in Matatiele, where we have a partnership with Conservation South Africa. And we also recently are working with WWF in supporting pro-nature and coastal entrepreneurship and cooperatives in the Eastern Cape area. But also we have an office in the Greater Kruger landscape, where we work with a group of lodges in the Greater Kruger area, as well as the Water Research Commission in supporting green and waterpreneurs in that area of the western bound of the Kruger National Park. But our main work that we do really revolves around supporting what we call eco-inclusive entrepreneurship. And it's a kind of entrepreneurship where we believe that have a net positive impact on the environment as well as society while they're generating revenue, generating profits. Over the years of our existence, which is almost about 6 years now, we've grown to be an organization that really builds what I would call a pipeline from a stage where a lot of us are not actually able to work in that area that is pretty much quite risky for a number of organizations or a number of investors or partners. So we work with early stage entrepreneurs. We work with them at a point of ideation where they're developing ideas and developing concepts. And we've been grateful and very lucky to be supported by a number of organizations over the past few years, and of course the EU included. And we currently have enjoyed quite a bit of support from a number of partners across the South African ecosystem and landscape. One of those is of course, the Nedbank, who are a very big partner of ours. And recently, we've just closed a project with Government of Flanders. And I heard Kwaita talk about the Climate Launchpad. You'll be pleased to know that Indalo Inclusive, together with Water Financials and Behold, hosts the Climate Launchpad in South Africa. So the competition that you saw, we actually host it, and we work with a number of UN agencies in the country. So if you look at the screen that I'm sharing with you, there's a number of projects that we've actually been working on, a number of thematic areas that we work on that really build a cohort of enterprises that graduate to be absorbed by a number of organizations that are presented here. And some of them go on to receive a lot of funding from investors and the likes. And we work on a very simple model that looks, like I said, from ideation. We've created some names around this that really speak to the brand of Indalo or the brand of Indalopreneurship, as we normally want to refer to it. Where we look at, obviously, ideation stage, we look at, an innovation, prototype validation, and a stage of enterprises. We look at growth phase, and we then look at acceleration. I think we have a quite strong leaning and inclination towards the issue and the notion of inclusivity. So, Elise and the previous speakers have spoken about the imperatives of green entrepreneurship, why we should be doing it. And Ariane just spoke about, again, the role of SMMEs around issues of the transition, the green economy, the demand for goods and services within this space. We also like to infuse issues of inclusion or inclusivity around entrepreneurship. So what that means is that we talk quite a bit about the base of the pyramid, people that really would believe that should be part of the value chains of any entrepreneurial development or innovation that we find ourselves in. And in that regard, we talk about post-economic inclusion, participation of the marginalized within those value chains. We look at social inclusion, how best do we build, social infrastructure within, neglected communities. I must also mention that we find ourselves working possibly in areas where a lot of others don't venture to go into. So we work in far-flung rural areas of South Africa, hence my mentioning of the spaces where we've recently opened up offices and set up footprint in the Eastern Cape, and the Greater Kruger area, where a lot of these institutions actually, hardly go to. So we bury that cross. We talk also in terms of inclusivity about involuntary inclusion. What that means for us is valuing this kind of platforms that we have right now, especially today, created by SIDA, that looks at how best do we bring in the issue and the messages of green economy to an otherwise broad, platform and topic of entrepreneurship. We would always want to ensure that people, maybe as a last point, are able to look at nature as an asset and take ownership of that thereof. We do also believe, by the way, that while the marginalized, South Africans or Africans have to respond or are actually dealing with issues of climate change, there's also a great opportunity for innovation around inclusion of these marginalized communities into greater value chains and into economic value chains across different sectors. So while we see it as challenges, we also see opportunities. And I'll give an example of some of those opportunities that exist that have been curated by a number of social or green entrepreneurs that we support as an organization. And I'll skip this slide because I think it just continues to emphasize the fact that what we call the base of the pyramid actually provide an economic, imperative, economic opportunity for entrepreneurs to start in innovating. I mean, the bulk of population sits within that space where people actually earn, less than $1 a day or survive with less than $1 a day across the globe. So there's an opportunity for more volume creation and more reaching out to more marginalized people around that space. So as a country and as entrepreneurs, how best do we respond? There is a greater need, I believe, that of creation or innovating within the adaptation and mitigation space, right? I think Elise looked at a number of opportunities around that particular space in different sectors. Quinn around, with Green Cape looked at opportunities that are beginning to be seen within that space. Some of these we may think that are a little bit unreachable because we're not actually there yet. Some of them are quite expensive for us to get into. And that's why the second point for me becomes quite important, because as we transition to the low carbon economy, it's critical that we do ensure that there is inclusion and the justice sector is not ignored. We need to make sure that our communities, our people are not left behind. And in fact, inclusion and issues of justice are embedded, into these spaces. And that becomes quite critical. And allow me, in the interest of time, to give you an example or some examples of areas where we are currently working. We're grateful to the support of the EU way back in 2019 or even earlier than that, around exploring opportunities for supporting just energy transition entrepreneurship in South Africa. We're probably one of the early entrants to really look at some of these opportunities within that space. This program has now grown. We're currently working in Mpumalanga with both the French Embassy as well as the Royal Netherlands Embassy to look at that area of Karsebande, looking at opportunities for co-innovation and co-creation of opportunities within the just transition space, because we believe that it's quite critical that as we transition, inclusion of communities, it's imperative. And we work in different sectors, renewable energy, transportation. I think these have been mentioned already. And as I move on, we've learned quite a bit from a number of enterprises that are there. These are also available on our social media pages and our website, and people can also write to me, and I can share some of these examples. Very exciting examples, and just to mention one or two of them, we have a lady, for example, in Pretoria that does rooftop farming, through an aquaponic system. We have an agroecology center in the Amalahleni area, that looks at upskilling and reskilling people who otherwise have been retrenched within the mining space, within that community or the coal mining value chains. And we have off-the-grid agricultural farms in Limpopo, and we have biogas and biodigesters that are actually being utilized as and enabling technologies for agriculture and farming in areas where there's otherwise no energy reach, or in the midst of load shedding and the likes. So yeah, these are just one example. I'm also excited to talk about Kusini, and I know that Green Cape actually mentioned them. So if you see some of these enterprises being mentioned by others, you must also know that they actually possibly went through our system. So Kusini provides technologies that provide waters and the likes. Meet Naturally has been mentioned, arrangement management program. But let me just quickly skip and go to this last slide, because I'll be killed if I don't talk about this. The question was that was posed to me is, what are some of the challenges and solutions, in as far as green is concerned in this space? One, I think we need patient funding and financial support for entrepreneurs. Yes, a combination of grants, and I think we need to move quite swiftly into areas of concessionary loans at an early stage, so that these entrepreneurs begin to understand how to operate within that space. Secondly, we do believe that there needs to be a deliberate creation of opportunities for partnerships and government support. This must be made easy for entrepreneurs to really access. And maybe the last point is exposure to successful models. So we talk about these things. Do they reach, and can people create based on models that are really successful, that have been implemented within this space? So the concept of replication and adaptation of technologies become quite critical. We believe that people can only innovate to the levels of their exposure. And maybe lastly, approaches to entrepreneurial development, we believe that they need to be developmental. The need out there is big. In the areas where we work, you really need to almost educate people. So the kind of qualities and that Ariane talks about, financial competencies and those kind of skills, a lot of our people don't have this. How do we make sure that the entrepreneurial development is developmental in approach and is educational?